Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 15. We've been at this for 15 straight weeks. And, you know, big weekend, obviously conference championships. There was a lot of big games this weekend, a lot to talk about. I'm really excited because the PLL is 3 weeks away pretty much. So, but we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, the conference playoffs, and then obviously these play-in games in Ohio State. Not a great draw, I don't think, but we'll talk about that, Scott. So, man.
So for the first time, maybe not talking PLL today. There's not really much going on there, and I know you're excited about it. I, for one, we have different points of view on this, but this is the time now where college lacrosse almost like resurpasses it to me because it's ESPN. I was even just watching like the stick work in the conference championship games of these top teams is crisp. Like finally these shitty college players are figuring it out, catching and throwing the ball, not making mistakes. Like the lacrosse elevates, the production quality elevates, and obviously like the bracket, there's nothing like it. So today you mentioned it, but we'll touch on conference championships. But then we'll probably spend most of the time just going through the bracket and the storylines and what we're looking for in this first week of games. But before that, Kyle, you came in a little hot today, right? Everybody listening or watching can't see it, but you come in, you're a little flustered. So before we start recording, I asked why, and I'd love for you to just share with everybody, like, why are you? I don't want to say off your game. I actually think you might be more on your game. But what happened to you today?
Well, this morning woke up at 6 o'clock. I got our first tournament game today versus the Colorado Buffaloes at 6:15 p.m. And a little monkey wrench got thrown into my plans this morning. My dog was bleeding all over the place. She's got these, these growths. Won't get too much into it, but she got some cancer things that we're going to have to get removed this afternoon at 3. Try to get a quick workout in, get my workout in, and then I go into the sauna, as I always do, to try to, meditate, get ready for the day. And some gentleman walks in and full-on blown sales call and kind of driving me nuts. I sat there for about 5 minutes listening to it, and then I kindly was like, hey, man, can you, take that outside? And he was like, no, I'm going to take it right here. And initially my first reaction was kill him, and then secondly, I'm too old for that, and I kind of just got up and walked out and just got in the shower and came here.
Because you're not a small dude. You're well trained with weapons. Not to mention you are also very good at beating people over the head with a stick. Was this guy huge? Like what is it in somebody that makes them feel like, when you say like, hey, do you mind taking that outside, to have the confidence to just be like, no, in a public sauna, like I'm doing my work call in the sauna. Was he a big dude?
I mean, I was laying down. Maybe he thought he could get the jump on me as I asked him that, but it's really dark in there, so you really can't see until you stand up and walk out, and you can see who it is. But he just didn't give a shit and just kind of was told me to F off.
I just feel like it's a public service announcement before we get into lacrosse, but the sauna is a place for healing and meditation and quiet time. If you're somebody that's right up there with eating Mexican food on a plane or going shoes off and feet up on. It's a wild decision to go into a sauna and take a work call. It just feels so disrespectful. So,
and then me and the trainer, the trainer I'm friends with there, I went in the bathroom. He was in there. I was like, hey man, what is your take on this? He's like, dude, that drives me absolutely nuts. He says people on the gym floor too, they'll just take a call and they'll just sit on a piece of equipment for 30 minutes and take that call. It's same thing.
Now, is this an Austin, Texas thing?
Could be.
Because I feel like maybe you should record our next one of these in a podcast. That would be true Austin, Texas behavior. It's just somebody goes to the sauna and you're just recording a podcast on the health benefits of saunas, just sitting there. So,
I don't know what it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that take calls in there. It's downtown. So
that's the work from home. I mean, back in the good old days, work was meant for the office. Yeah. Now people think they can just do their work anywhere. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I think me being, about to be 40 and having a daughter, I just don't, I'm a little bit more calmer now. So, but my initial thought was, man, I just want to kill this guy. But yeah.
Was that breaking news there?
Breaking news. Yeah. I'm having a daughter in November. So,
edit that out. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Couple girl dads now. So we'll go on another ride here with our audience. We'll see if you can be as gritty as me. Didn't miss an episode. We'll have to remind everybody, you, Corey, when it comes to game time, Rat didn't miss an episode when his daughter was born.
This is true.
Throwing that out there.
Setting the standard.
We'll see what happens. But congrats to you. That's obviously awesome. And I just thought everybody should know, if you seem a little fiery, Like even when we were texting today, it's like you were all fed up about Maryland being a 2 seed. You seemed a little more mad than you needed to be. So it's good to just get some. It's good to get some context on where we're at. So okay, let's jump in before we talk about like the bracket, which obviously again we'll spend time on. I do want to talk about. I think of the conference championship games, the one that was definitely the most compelling was Cuse Duke, right, in the ACC championship. And my take going into that game after UNC. So UNC goes up to the Dome, smokes Cuse. Then they turn around and they just get destroyed by Duke, who has not really like done anything to kind of turn heads all year. Like good team, solid team, but hasn't like wowed anybody. And then Cuse pumps Notre Dame again, which like you have in the back of your head, like maybe Notre Dame's about to turn it on, and then they don't really show up to play. So I left the ACC semifinals basically with the take of like, I don't know that any of these teams are really good. Like they're good, but great, like championship teams, because they're all so inconsistent. It's hard to know what you're going to get. We go into the championship game, Duke Cuse. That was a great game, like really well played on both sides, back and forth. Cuse defending a lead late. And I don't know if you have other stuff from that game to bring up, but what was Gary Gate doing with his timeout? So I'm going to paint the picture. They're up by a goal, and they get the ball, and they win a face-off, right? So Duke scores to make it a 1-goal game with like a minute left. Shot clock's off. And they win the face-off. The face-off guy goes forward, throws it over an attackman who's being covered by a shorty because they had double pulled the wings. And then he calls a timeout right away. You've got an attackman with a shorty on you and no double team, no defense set up. You could easily probably could have run a lot of time off the clock, but at minimum, you could have run 20 seconds off while Duke got organized to send a double team. And he just calls the timeout right away. You had mentioned to me, but like I'm pretty sure even his assistant coaches were like grabbing their head when he made that timeout call. What do you like? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, watching it.
How does that happen?
Yeah, watching it live, like obviously the Cuse player was pretty gassed, but so was the Duke player. So like, and where they were.
But this is before that. So
yeah. This is the first, like when they called the second timeout. Yeah, that's what I'm getting into. But he's running the ball out, and then obviously he calls that timeout, and then the second one, which you're talking about, like I thought when they called the first one, Duke, the McGuire kid, the short stick D midi, the junior kid's an absolute animal. Like he's like, you don't have to worry about him being dodged one-on-one. So I'm like, they call that timeout, I'm like, all right, he's going to be on the ball, and a long pole is going to be on the ball. But then they just had one pole. They came out with one pole on the ball, which I thought was not smart. And then because then they run, and then they try bringing the goalie out, and then they move it to where the goalie is, and then they kind of ran around the field again. They kind of wasted like 10 seconds, and then they got into that. So I thought that was kind of like a waste of time. But like, yeah, that time out there, it's just like, even if you're running with the ball and there's 15 seconds left and they put it on the ground, it's gonna be another 5 or 6 seconds for them to pick like it's gonna be a scrum. So it's like, now you call a timeout, and now you rest the defenseman, and it's like, and then you give it back to Owen Hiltz, which I don't think is a really good
that's
player
right. No. So you're right. I was so like they called that timeout, and I think the reason they come out of that timeout, the ball, they called it above the cage.
Yeah.
So they came out of that and they just had one pole on the ball and not in a double team because I think they didn't want to leave their goal open. Right. Yeah. So they're thinking filter him behind the cage. Then the goalie comes out and it's a chase scenario. And I think it ends up being Hiltz, who Syracuse passed the ball around a few times, and Hiltz ends up in like it being chased, and he runs all the way around the field, but he kind of gets past the goalie. Yeah. And he still has like a pole chasing him. Like he's not like totally in the clear, but in no way is he like about to turn the ball over. So this is where the absurdity comes into me. So they kill some time. He's still not in like we're about to turn it over moment, which there's an art to that. Like as a coach, like timing that up where you kill as much time as you can and you read your player and like this is the moment. Didn't feel like that was the moment. Like again, he did have a pole on him, and Hiltz did look tired, but like it was only one guy and he wasn't like actively soaking checks, and Gary calls it. So I'm already like furious at the first time out. Then that one, I'm like, that still wasn't great. Like, I get it. Hiltz had run like a full lap around the entire field, but like I thought he still had another 5, 6, 7 seconds in him before that needed to happen. So then they go into the timeout. The kid who has been my favorite player to watch the entire day is English. Like, just a two-way stud. And every time you watch him, I mean, McGuire's like this too, just in the middle of the field, like just so much faster than everybody else, so athletic. You assume you got a kid like that, you're going to come out of this next time out and you're going to give the ball to him, against a double team.
But was he in concussion protocol? Remember he took that high hit late?
He might have been.
They might have been. Yeah, it might have been. I don't know, but you're right.
Well,
I don't know. I literally just threw that out there, just throw a monkey wrench in that.
I hope so. I didn't I hope so.
Because he got hit. He got hit. That was a fucking pretty high hit.
Yeah, he got popped.
Yeah.
They come out of that timeout. They give the ball back to Hiltz, which he had done a great job the first time. But first off, he's fucking gassed. He had just run all the way around the field.
Better off giving it to Dwan. Just let Dwan start with it.
He also was Hiltz is 5'8", Canadian finisher. He's
Do you think they were like, hey Hiltz, you're gonna get the ball? You think he was like, you sure about that?
I feel like this is a classic coach overthinking. I think Gary knew he fucked up when he called the first time out, because I think their defensive coordinator was threw his arms up in the air coach, no,
Yeah.
And then I think he was a little flustered, and I think Hiltz you could make the argument of stick protection, but these can they're not. He's not generally. I mean, he gets covered by poles all the time and field across. But just generally, you don't think of Canadian indoor players as being the guys to beat doubles against poles at the end of games. That's just not. Usually you'd put great athlete on the ball, attackman, or a two-way midi type, and then you're gonna put a bunch of defensive personnel on the field to get back on D. And
Roa Leo, I mean, yeah, you give it to somebody.
I mean, he got stripped in 3 seconds. They blew the whistle and he hopped, and the defenseman just threw a little poke check. Boom, ball's out.
Yeah.
Duke picks up the ball and clears. I also didn't love Duke's decision then. They had McGuire with the ball. The Syracuse defense was kind of spread out. There's 9 seconds left. And they called a timeout.
Well, yeah, but before that too, and this was the issue the entire game. I think if you watch the whole game, Duke couldn't, they had so many turnovers and clearing, and also in that game, they couldn't get in a groove because Cuse is winning all the faceoffs, and you cannot turn the ball over when that's happening. And the Duke polls, it was kind of old school lacrosse. They get to the midline, they're looking for people to throw.
Yeah, they didn't want to run over.
Just run over the damn midline. They had the one pole that can go in transition, but I remember before the pole threw it to McGuire, he wasted time. He was looking. It's just run to the damn box. They can call a timeout.
Yeah,
and they threw it to McGuire. McGuire's yelling. You can see McGuire. They threw it to him, and that kid's he's so freaking athletic, man.
Duke's offense hasn't been overly impressive. Maliver had an okay game. Obviously, they got the stud in the midfield,
chance to win it.
And I just think this is kind of a thing in basketball too. Do you call the timeout? Do you not? They end up getting a great look, by the way. So, if Maliver finishes up in front of the cage, we're not having this conversation.
For all of you attackmen listening, don't fade away.
Can't fade. But to me, that I just think the best player on the field for Duke was that kid McGuire.
Yeah.
And you have the ball in his stick, and I know he's a D midi, but the defense was not set up to slide. He was going to get a legit one-on-one to run by a defenseman and go score the game-tying goal. I would have been. It's hard as a coach to let go of the reins, but I felt that was another situation. So, maybe, hey, this is conference tournament. Maybe it's the coaches are sharpening the axe for the NCAA tournament. But I just was really, it was a great game. It was super entertaining to watch. I thought the level of play was high. I just thought some of the coaching decisions late were strange, and I left it feeling the same way about the ACC. If you're a disciplined team, I just don't Cuse. I just think Cuse is going to struggle. They're sloppy. They turn the ball over. They're not situationally great. They're super talented, and their goalie's hot right now. And so are they dangerous for sure? But a team like Cornell, a team like Maryland, I just don't see Cuse having the discipline and consistency. And then with Duke, same thing, their offensive talent. So all of that whole roundabout dance to say, I left that game feeling the same way I felt when I came into it, which is I just don't think the ACC has an elite team this year. I think they've got 4 good teams, but I don't think they have any great teams. And which of those 4 good teams might make a run, we can talk about it when we look at the bracket. Anybody's guess. Any given day, Duke, UNC, Cuse, and Notre Dame, who fucking knows? It's impossible to tell who's going to show up. I just don't. Cuse probably has Cuse or UNC to me still have the most primetime players, especially on offense. But but they're just not convincing. Even when they win, it's not convincing to me.
Yeah, and Duke, I mean, Duke versus UNC looked, I mean, that was like May Duke, you know, every year in May, they usually find a stride. And that game, like the Thomas Delgado kid, that he didn't play. When I was listening to the game, he said this is his first game starting. He had a hat trick, and then against Cuse, he had two.
And he looked great.
He's a sophomore, man. He's so good at like balls coming around. The ball's like not even in his stick yet. He's already freaking dodging. Like that kid. That's a bright spot for Duke because he stepped up and played like a damn senior. So
yeah,
that was cool
I think that the Duke though peaking late narrative. I don't know. Duke just doesn't have the lore that they once had, and I think it goes back to star power. Like. It's just like, who's the guy? And ever since 2020 and like the transfer portal, and all of a sudden Duke had Sowers and had all these dudes with Brennan O'Neill who like transferred in, and they just never really had their groove. Like, I just think like the Danowski magic was like, I mean, I remember like Dave Lawson and Jake Tripucka, first line midfield with Wolf, and like Deemer Class and Miles Jones were freshmen on that team, like learning how to do it. Right. And like they were the second line midfield. Then those guys grow up and become the first line midfield. And it was just, I don't know, the transfer. They haven't had that same feel that Duke had for so long, where it was like they're going to be a wagon going into the end of the season, and they're going to have multiple first team All-Americans. Like, that's not this team. That's not any of these ACC teams. So not a lot else in the conference tournament. Got anything else in the ACC? I mean, Ohio State hammered Maryland. We could talk a little bit about that. And then Cornell puts up a 20-burger on Princeton, which was Cornell. When you want to talk about wagon, like that's wagon behavior.
Yeah, and they got a pretty
going into the conference championship.
Obviously, game. The Maryland game was weird. It was credit to Ohio State. Their defense, like their short sticks are pretty athletic. They can defend. And where Maryland beats you, especially how methodical their offense is moving the ball, drawing slides, moving it twice and being patient, but they didn't draw too many slides. And then when Ohio State did slide, they recovered so quickly. You could just see the defenseman, like every defenseman pointing where to go and covering the backside. And so credit Ohio State, but yeah, man, like drawing Notre Dame first round in the tournament, that's it's a tough one. But at the end of the day,
congrats on winning the Big Ten.
Yeah, congrats on winning the Big Ten. Here's Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's been one of the contenders for the last 3 years, and it's just like it's a tough team to get in the draw. But again, at the end of the day, man, you're gonna have to play them at some point. Let's play them. Might as well play them fresh. And when you can game plan them.
What about your Tigers? Because I've been on the take all year. I just don't see it with Princeton. I just think I put them in the same bucket as the ACC teams. I think they're a nice team, but for me, and I've been, in our group text, like my championship contenders, Cornell, Maryland, Ohio State, and I throw Richmond in there. Like, there's my wild card team. That's not my Final Four pick. One of those four teams is going to win the championship. That's my point of view. And I just don't like Princeton, who, again, Princeton's the 3 seed. I just don't see them that way because Cornell waxes them, Maryland plays them, kind of handles them at home. Like, every time they've had a chance to like step up in level against like other top teams, I've just been a little bit underwhelmed. So like, I don't really want to put them, like, they're a good team. They've had a great season, but to give up 20 goals in your and again, they scored 15. So it is kind of just the type of game, but there's just something that's just been off. Like, they just haven't been able to find, like, they had a chance to do what Ohio State did, right? Ohio State lost to Maryland in the regular season in the Big Ten, and they kind of get their revenge. And now you go into the tournament kind of looking at those two teams the same. Like, either one of those teams could be, a national championship winner. Like, Princeton, to me, needed to beat Cornell if they were going to come into this tournament with confidence that like they belonged, and they're winning early. And I'm like, oh man. And then you walk away for 10 minutes and you come back and Cornell's scored like 17 goals and the game's completely out of reach. Do you see that differently? Am I off on that? Or you see Princeton the same way?
I mean, no, I don't. I mean, but I think Cornell is an anomaly. Look at their schedule. They haven't had any close games except for that Penn State game late, and they were up,
and Richmond.
And Richmond, that's right. And
Richmond by 1.
Yeah. But outside of that, man, they just like,
they just
you watch the game and like against Cuse, it's like I was like pumped to watch that game, and then just like,
this isn't entertaining.
Like, this isn't entertaining.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. It's tough for them for sure.
Yeah, and like Kirst, he just like, I don't know what his average in points is. It's got to be 6 a game, like 4 goals, 3 assists, like. Kid's unstoppable. And I just the one clip they had of him in the Yale when they played Yale, and he like turns the ball over and the guy interferes with him, like shoves him on the ground, and he runs back, like checks the freaking ball out of the kid's stick, chases another kid down, chases this. The kid just plays with so much damn energy, and he's going to be a tough. He's kind of like a Bernhardt, and having a Bernhardt on Maryland. Like when he's on the field, it's like fuck, man. Like, are we gonna be able to stop this team? And then like if you limit him, Goldstein. I mean, it's just like they have a lot of weapons.
They got a bunch of guys.
Yeah. So I don't the Princeton thing. Like I don't know if they had the defense to do it. I really don't, because giving up 20 goals is not good. So
no, and there's just, I think what I'm looking for in that is like part of making a run in May is there's just got to be a little magic. Like it is like we could break it down, but it's just like there's a feel to teams that like have the belief, and that belief leads to like just staying engaged. Like when it's a tight game or you're losing late, you don't start to picture summer vacation. Like you watch NBA or NHL playoffs right now, you can see the same thing there. Like there's the teams who have the energy of like, we're in this for the long haul and nobody's even thinking about going on summer vacation. And then there's other teams where it's like, hey, happy to be here. Yeah. And that's where, again, that's where there's just a challenge for me with Princeton, and I just haven't seen it all year. Like goes back to my get Ted Lasso in that locker room. Like they just lack belief. I don't see the belief coming out of that locker room. They haven't shown up for their biggest games and played their best yet. So why do I think they're going to do it now?
Yeah, and one interesting thing too, like if you look at the bracket to the one side, I think the side that's on the right side where Princeton's at, they could actually make it. Just because who they're playing, like they play, Princeton, Towson. If they win that game, then they play the winner of Cuse, Harvard. It's a winnable game. But yeah.
Well, let's get into it. So we'll go through game by game and talk about it. But I'd love to know and I do know somewhat from hearing from you. But when you looked at the bracket and you saw the draw, what was the first thing you looked for? What was your first reaction to the draw?
So I'm just spending 5 to 10 hours a day on college lacrosse and researching it. But no, I saw, right off the bat, I watched the Maryland Ohio State game, and I was at a tequila tasting, so you could tell I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but I was watching it. And Maryland loses that game in the fashion they lose the game, and the brackets come out. I'm like, oh my God, they got to, they're the 2 seed, which I didn't agree with, but you explained it to me, and then now it makes sense, so you can explain it.
Well, and I mean, explain it or not, like I think this is something that people like online would be interested to talk about because everybody will have a different opinion. Yeah. So like what you're saying is like they just lost their conference championship. Like why would they be a 2 seed, or why would they be ahead of Ohio State? Basically?
Do you know what they were ranked? Do you know what they were ranked the week previous going into this game? Do you have any idea?
I don't, but here's the reason I like push back on you. There's a very clear criteria that the selection committee uses. So like, it's not about that. Like it doesn't it's about RPI at the end of the day. And RPI doesn't weight that loss to Ohio State any differently because it's the end of the season that it weighted when Maryland beat Ohio State earlier in the season. And Maryland beat Princeton, who was the number 3 in the RPI. So I was a little less like, it wasn't so much defending it that I just knew that was going to happen. Because if you just look at the RPI, you pretty much get a sense of who's going to be seated where. But that's a different discussion. Like, should that be how it is? Should there be more of an award for winning your conference tournament? Because for these teams, like the reality is like, and I even wondered if this didn't factor into the ACC tournament a little bit. Like the team that needed to win the most going into the ACC tournament was Cuse, at least to win 1 game.
Yeah.
And then they end up, winning. Yeah. And I just think like, if you're Maryland and you already know you're in, like that Big Ten tournament's like, I don't want to say it's meaningless, but it's meaningless. Like I just, if you're at a program and your goal is national championships, like the conference championships are what they are. But, I won 1 and it was the same year we won the national championship. And I don't even remember the conference championship or have a t-shirt or a hat or anything. Like, it's just like, that's not what you're ultimately playing for. No. Right. So it's a big deal only to the teams that don't win the national championship.
Yeah.
And I do think from a psyche perspective that plays in. Like I think Ohio State needed that game, not to get into the tournament, but just for the belief factor more than Maryland, and they played like it. So it's a long-winded answer, but like I would just say, okay, if you don't like Maryland at number 2, like forget the selection committee. Who do you think is the number 2 seed? Like who do you look at right now and say this is the team that should be the 2nd seed if it's not Maryland?
Yeah. And that wasn't my point was like I just don't think they deserve the 2 seed. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ohio State
can't say that if you don't have another team to stick in there.
I mean, Ohio State
like you can't just say they don't deserve it and then say Princeton should get it after they just gave up 23 goals.
I mean, Ohio State beating them in the fashion that they did. I mean, I could see them getting a 2 seed, but I don't know if they can't jump that high, right? I don't know what that's
but I mean, take that out of it. Like to me, that's your best argument.
Yeah.
So Ohio State's at 4, right? And you're not going to say Princeton because they got smoked worse than Maryland.
Yeah.
I tend to agree. Like the Big Ten, probably the best conference this season.
And Maryland beat that, but Maryland also beat them in the regular season, so you can throw that in there too, and it kind of cancels it out.
But which one's more recent? And it's a playoff style. So like, look, I think there is and we could get into this. So, okay, so this actually perfectly leads in. So that's the first thing you're looking at is, oh, interesting. Maryland like gets smoked and then still lands at number 2, which puts Ohio State at number 4. And then Ohio State gets to host Notre Dame. And this is where it's just, you could kind of see this coming because the top 8 get seeded, right? And then they don't seed the 8 behind that. And they pick those matchups based on a number of different things, one of which is travel, like limiting travel. So you kind of know, like, it's always like Ohio State, Denver, Notre Dame that like end up having to play each other. And that sucks. Like you win the Big Ten tournament. I do think you have a case to say we should be the 2 seed. We just smoked Maryland 3 days ago or earlier today. If it's Selection Sunday, Maryland gets to play Robert Morris or Air Force, and we have to host the 2-time defending national champions. So like,
yeah,
that was where my eyes went. My eyes went 2 places. When that bracket was first posted on the screen, did Army get in? Right? It was like kind of the Army-Harvard debate. And is Ohio State hosting Notre Dame? And I saw right away, oh, yep, Harvard's in and Ohio State's hosting Notre Dame. Like those are the ones that I think were the biggest. Like surprise isn't the right thing, but man, imagine being an Army. Like you were in the top 5 most of the season. Like they were a top 5 team for multiple weeks of the year. Yeah. And you lose 1 game and you're now apparently not one of the 16. What is it?
I want to know who's on the 4, 6, I want to know who's on the 10, I want to know who's on the selection committee. I wish it was
17, 18 teams.
Is it publicly listed who's on the selection committee?
I don't know why.
Because I want to know. Just, I don't know. Everything going on with that campus over at Harvard, I just let, between Army and Harvard, just got to let Army go. Just let them go. Just,
And like I think anybody who listens to us knows like we're probably not going to give like level-headed, educated point of view on why Harvard got in. But like I just don't like it. Just doesn't make sense to me that the team that's in the top 5 all year, Harvard was like ranked around 15 all year, and like somehow 1 game, and now that team's in and Army's all the way out. And I get the strength of schedule thing, which like Army could take some blame. Like if you look at Loyola, who obviously was terrible this year, but look at they're in the Patriot League. To me, look at who they played the first 6 games of the season. Yeah. Like Maryland, Duke, Georgetown. Like it's all like big time programs. Army really only scheduled UNC and then Rutgers. I think they hoped would be a better win. UMass maybe they hoped would be a better win. But their strength of schedule is shitty.
Yeah.
And then they can't help that Loyola, who normally would be a big game for them, wasn't good. BU was kind of down. Like even their chance of having like a little conference bump in strength of schedule, the Patriot League did not have a good year this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard for me.
You gain nothing nowadays, like from scheduling a cupcake schedule. Like Army's a good team, and if you put a UNC, a Cuse, they had UNC, but like UNC, Cuse, Maryland, just put like 3 or 4 teams. You don't have to have the whole damn roster like that, but if you get 2 big wins out of that, you're good.
Well, what you do when you're in the Patriot League, you do. Yeah. You need to schedule every non-conference game needs to be a top 10 team.
Yeah.
If I like that's what you have to learn from this if you're the coaching staff there, because you can't count on your conference to give you enough juice, and you can't bank on winning conference tournaments. Like those are just such a crapshoot, and you just have one bad day and you're playing back-to-backs. And like, even in that scenario, like Colgate plays a game before them, gets in rhythm. Like conference tournaments are hard to win. And the best, national champions don't always win their conference. But I think what's hard is just like Army. I think Army could beat any team in this bracket. And like maybe not Cornell, but like they're in the mix with all these teams. And I just the visual of just like being on a team and all season long, you know, Monday morning you log on to Inside Lacrosse and you see yourself ranked in the top 5, and then you lose one game and now you're just season's over.
Yeah.
And I guess they had to know that to some extent, but I think they have a fair gripe to just be like, you know, what it like. I don't know, what did Harvard do? I guess they just played a tougher schedule. That is what it is. They won at Syracuse, but
Cuse,
I mean, Army beat UNC.
Coach Burns said Cuse is back. That press conference.
So that's another really compelling game. But we'll go game by game and talk about that. So the last thing I think, just as far as like general storylines before we get into each matchup, the play-in games. So I like this. I think it gets more teams in, and it gets like these no offense, shitty teams like out of my face on like first round Saturday. Like I don't want like if we had to have 4 games where it was one of these other schools against Robert Morris and one of these schools against Air Force and one against Albany and one against Siena, like that's 4 games that are a waste of my time, and it's like other teams are getting bumped out because of that. Yeah. Whatever it is, 2 other teams that would be in this, like we'd have no Harvard and we'd probably have like no Notre Dame or something. Yeah. So like I do think it's a good idea to do these.
This is probably this is probably a really stupid take, but like also, you know, Siena College. Okay, got it. Albany, and then you said Robert Morris and Air Force.
And Air Force.
Is like any of the teams that didn't get in better than those teams? It's just like, you know, an eye test. Like, should an eye test be like, it's just like, hey, is Siena, they won their conference championship. That is awesome for them. Not taking that away from them. I know that's an automatic bid to the tournament.
Yeah, and they beat Sacred Heart, who was ranked, for what it's worth.
Yeah. But it's just like, are they better than like?
But I mean, Army beats all those teams. But I mean, imagine also being Army and Air Force is in. Like you're like, yeah, you know, enemy of like big rival. Obviously, it's not Navy, but still, like the one academy who's in is probably the worst team of the 3 of them. So, you know, it's just like, but whatever, man. They're in, but they're going in there to just take their beating. We when in 2012 when we won it, I think it was the last time Siena made the tournament. We were the 1 seed and they were our matchup. And it was 3-3 at halftime of that game. And I think the final score was like 22-3 or something like that. Yeah. It's just like, so that's going to happen here. I mean, it'll be it's fun to watch those playing games. Like Robert Morris, Air Force, and Albany Siena will be good matchups. But then, you know, it's a huge, I mean, and this goes back to your point with Maryland, just a huge advantage to get that 1 or 2 seed, because every other game you could see either team winning. Like the only 2 like write-ins to the second round are Cornell and Maryland. You know, it's just like such a big advantage. You're just in the quarterfinal.
They're not playing like, it's just, you know, look at the damn brackets. Like they're going to be in the Final Four. I mean, Duke, Georgetown might have something to say about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. You're not wrong though. Like those are the paths. Like the paths for the 1 and 2 seeds are significantly easier, which I guess they should be. Yeah. But then it's like, damn, you're going to give the 2 seed to the team that just lost to the 4 seed the day that you made it's an imperfect process, we'll say. And at the end of the day, the cream will rise to the top and they'll win the games. So let's just go through it. I was just going to start kind of at the top left, and let's just work through it game by game and kind of give our breakdown. So Cornell, first off, who do you like, Albany or Siena?
Albany.
And why?
Blaze Reardon.
Yeah, I mean, Albany just seems.
I haven't watched much of. I haven't seen many of their games. I don't know anything about teams. I'm not gonna sit here and comment on them. But Albany, Scott Marr teams, I just don't think.
Siena. But they recruit better. They're probably just a little more class in that matchup. But you know, Siena, it's in upstate New York. They're
right down the road, baby.
Is that upstate New York or is that central? Or
when are we doing that podcast? We got to figure this out.
Yeah. So anyway, both those teams are up in the very cold area. So there'll probably be some kids who know each other and all that good stuff. So Cornell versus the winner of that game. Probably don't need to spend 5 seconds on it. I think if you're the big storyline in that game is if you're cursed, you need to put up like a 10 spot there. If you're going after, you know, just continuing to kind of solidify the records and the points, that's a good opportunity to really make sure you're getting those numbers up just in case you see some shut offers and things tighten up later in the tournament. So big day for Kirsten. We'll put Albany through to the quarterfinals. This one is awesome to me. UNC Richmond. So UNC gets to 8 seeds, so they're hosting, which I think a lot of people thought borderline there. You could see Richmond kind of like hosting this type of matchup as an 8 seed. They end up giving it to UNC. I don't know if I agree with that. Like UNC got just, I mean, it's just so hard. They get a co-share of the ACC championship, but then they just get abused. Richmond has just been steady all year, but they didn't get over the hump and win any of those big games. I mean, they beat UVA, but they sucked. They didn't beat Maryland. They almost, but didn't beat Cornell. I think if they win one of those games, they're definitely hosting. But man, through their conference play, like the team didn't get within 7 of them. Like St. Joe's, some of these other teams that we thought were frisky, UMass, High Point, like nothing. Richmond was clearly the class of that conference, and Richmond has knocked on the door. I mean, they lost to Penn as an unseeded team by 1 goal in the tournament. I think they lost to Duke one year by 1 goal in the tournament, or maybe it was Virginia. They've been knocking on the door, and to me, this looks like Coach Chamati's best team that he's had at Richmond. It's kind of been the most convincing regular season. Who do you like in that game, and why?
I think, you touched on it when we talked about, you went pretty in depth on Coach Chamati and how passionate. I mean, he's done a great job with that program. And I think, you just touched on the teams that they played this year and the fashion in which they lost those games, like 1-goal games against your, top teams. They're battle tested. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game for North Carolina. I think if Owen Duffy was 100, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, obviously he's hurt.
Not healthy, is he?
He's hurt.
Yep.
You can tell he's hurt. And they rely so much on him and Petramala. Like you see, like when if they don't shoot well or they don't play well, it puts a lot of stress on that defense. And like, I think when UNC gets out to a hot start and they're putting balls in the back of the net, their defense is more at ease. But when it's kind of like, they go down early and then it's a tight game, the defense kind of, those two are going to have to play extremely well for them to win this game. And I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but they're at UNC. They do have that in their favor. But at the end of the day, like if Owen Duffy was 100%, and I knew he was 100%, I don't know what his injury is, but it's clear that he's not 100% Owen Duffy. And I think that's going to be a big thing that Coach Chamati will probably key in on, maybe pressing out on him more, whatever game plans they're going to throw at him. But like those two are obviously what makes that offense click, and I think you're going to see him hopefully, if they take both of them out or make life hard for them, UNC could lose this game. But I'm going to take UNC in a 1-goal victory at home.
Yeah, so I'll go opposite. I think Richmond wins the game. I think your point is right. Duffy hasn't looked like himself. I also think home field advantage is different for different teams. And like as great as those North Carolina schools are, like they're not lacrosse schools. Like it's not like going to play at Cornell or at Cuse or at Loyola or at Hopkins. Like you're going down there and it's like everybody's family will be there. It's going to be beautiful weather.
Girlfriend are going to be on the sideline.
from Richmond, it's like not a far bus ride. Yeah, this would be the one I definitely have the strongest bias, but I just believe in Richmond. I just think I think they're better coached than UNC, and I think if UNC were humming into the tournament, but I agree their health and their reliance on a couple things. I think the X factor, if UNC does win, I think it'll be whatever John Ficcaro, the goalie. He hasn't really had the kind of All-American season that I think people were expecting. If he kind of flips the switch and he shows up and plays great, I think UNC could win, but that's what they're going to need. I think they're going to need a great game out of their goalie. If not, I like Richmond Cornell in a rematch of, outside of the Cornell's one loss, the toughest game they got all season. So I think that's a really compelling, and we'll get into it hopefully if it comes to fruition next week. But I think that could be a really interesting second round matchup. But I like Richmond to beat North Carolina. I just think they're peaking. They're playing better. UNC, they don't have enough horses. And I just have to ride my take. I'm not there with the ACC. I'm just not. I don't really believe in them. I believe in Coach Chamati. So we'll keep going. So Penn State, Colgate. So Colgate gets hot, beats Army, steamrolls BU. Really impressive Patriot League tournament for Colgate. So you want to buy on a hot team. Colgate would be that stock. What do you think about this game? Who do you like?
I don't know, Scott. I think Penn State is gonna win this game pretty handedly. It's been cool to see Colgate kind of emerge as a great team. Obviously, they've been solid over the years, but it's been cool to see their run. But I do not see them competing with Penn State in this one. I think it's 5. I don't know what the spread is on the game, but I'm taking Penn State 5 or more in this one. They have no business even being in this game.
Matt Trainor's the is that his name? Is his first
Yep.
name? His last name's Trainor.
Yep.
He's the best player on the field in this
Not
game.
Not confused with the butcher of Bill Ricca. The Trainer.
Yeah, correct. Spelled differently. This is Trainor with a Y, and he'll be a guy. Trainor will be a PLL guy.
Yeah, for sure. His stocks has risen for sure.
He's playing well, but I think the Big Ten talent right now compared to the Patriot League there's a gap, right? And I think this is like a little bit of a happy to be there scenario with Colgate. I wouldn't surprise me if they were frisky and played him well, but at the end of the day, Penn State it's been to Final Fours recently, has played in the Big Ten, is battle tested. I just think they're a better team, so I think we'll get Penn State through. Ohio State, Notre Dame. So I'll just keep going on this one. I think I'd say a lot of the same things. Like, it's never easy to beat a champion, and Notre Dame has that, and they've got a lot of guys in that locker room who were champions. They don't have the magic that they've had. This Ohio State team does seem to have something clicking right now. And I don't, we talked about it with Kark, like Notre Dame's midfielders, like if they can get unlocked, I just don't see people on Notre Dame consistently winning matchups on this Buckeyes defense. This Buckeyes defense is so athletic. The close defensemen, and then you mentioned their D middies. I mean, they got 2 D middies out there who are just locked down. One of them is Ari Allen, who was like a starting O midi for them as a freshman, and then he was hurt for a couple of years. But he's from down here in Georgia. He was like a starting running back on one of the best high school football teams down here. Like, he's a freak athlete, and he's dangerous on offense. Like it's almost crazy to me that he's a D midi, because he's really skilled too. So I kind of feel like it's the same thing. Like, you can look at it and be like, oh, boo-hoo, Ohio State. But, like, let's face it, Notre Dame, like, hasn't been that impressive this year. Like, yeah. And at a certain point, it is who you are. Like, you can't just flip a switch and then magically become some different team. So they will be hard to kill. If you show up and you don't play well, they're going to play well. They've been in pressure environments. They've been in big games. They have a Kavanaugh. Like, they've got all these things. They've got a shutdown on-ball defender. But, like, ultimately, I just am going to trust the body of work. Like, Ohio State, really, since, whatever it was that Utah, I mean, they've just been good all year, right? And Notre Dame hasn't been. They've been very up and down. So this is my, don't overthink it. I think we'll get Ohio State, Penn State in a Big Ten matchup in the quarterfinal there at the bottom.
Yeah, obviously, not a very favorable draw. We've already touched on that, but you can't, Notre Dame, Corrigan, you can't count them out. I think it's going to be a close game. I'd say I'm going to go Ohio State by 2, but I'm saying this game's going to be close throughout. I think you're going to need Kavanaugh. He's going to have anywhere from 4 to 5 points in this one, and then those downhill Dodgers we saw against UNC, the Faison, and I don't know who's the other wide receiver kid. I don't know his name.
I don't know, but those guys, Faison. It's just it's the same thing with this Notre Dame team. It's like the idea of him is better than the actual thing that's on the field. Like, he's better at football. Like, you watch their games, you hardly notice him. Like, I just don't Taylor and Cav are the ones on their offense that jump off the page to me. And the other thing about this game is, and this is probably going to get me in trouble with their alumni bases, but 2 coaches that I just wouldn't want to have a beer with. Both these coaches seem so grumpy. Why? They always look grumpy and mad at somebody about something. Taylor made a mistake late in the game, and Corrigan was just ripping him in the ACC tournament. I'm just I get it. Coaches yell at their players, and he's that's anyway. It is. I said what I said. My bottom of my list of coaches in this tournament who I'd want to have a beer with.
To my point with the other, I don't know the other kid's name, but there was one UNC they dodged and he was subbing out of the box. They threw it to him and he just got downhill, and I don't know who the hell was guarding him, but he was 10 yards in front of him, drew a slide, moved it. I'm just saying, get your athletes the ball, draw slides and move it, get it to the attackman, let them take care of it. But I think this game will be close. I got Ohio State by 2, though. That defense, if they played the way they did against Maryland, it's going to be really difficult for Notre Dame to put the ball in the back.
I actually don't think
Big Tasty. I think Big Tasty, too.
The goalie, he is legit. I think Ohio State will win by 5 goals. I do. All right, we'll go to the other side. So Princeton, Towson. So this is compelling. The CAA, we've kind of slept on them. We haven't really talked about them all season. But Towson's has won a lot of straight games. They're railing off wins. They're always these 2 programs are the exact opposite of each other. The antithesis of Towson State, and Princeton, like the the GPA scale to get into the schools is like as far apart as you can be. Like the style of play, everything about them. Like Towson's just kind of this gritty, tough, Baltimore, hardworking, like they're even in that Baltimore corridor of like Hopkins and Loyola. You got your private schools and this and that, and then you got like Towson up the street, like to have a little more fun, let loose. And then like Nadalin's really built a tough program. He's taken them to a Final Four before. This one is interesting to me. This is going to be the Princeton hater in me. I've kind of been on that all year, so I kind of have to stick with it. I wouldn't say that I'm in love with Towson. I do think they're hot, and I think it's, you can ride a hot hand. They've been winning a lot, but it's more just about like, does Princeton really want to be there? I've said it. I saw it when they played Maryland. I saw it again against Cornell. Like, I don't see anything that's like super inspired from them. And you look and like their draw is great, man. Like they easily could be in the Final Four and they can say, fuck you, rat. You don't know anything, like easily. But until they prove that to me, I just haven't seen the je ne sais quoi from this Princeton Tigers team. Like, I just don't know what it is or what's missing, because they've got tons of talent. They've got great coaches. Like, I think it's because they're not wearing those old ugly Warrior helmets. Like, that might be it. They might need to bring out like more orange on their like sleeves. Like, they need to look like the Cincinnati Bengals kind of vibes, except for maybe black with orange. There's like something about it that's just missing, and I don't know what it is. So this was going to be my upset pick, I think, for the first round. Is that I think Towson might just just turn it into a bar fight at Green Turtle, and Towson's got experience in that, and if they turn it into that, they're gonna win.
Yeah, Towson on a 10-game win streak. I think I like everything you said there. I just don't think they're going to compete with Princeton in this one. I think Princeton's going to win this one by 5 or more.
You're probably right.
But I think the toughness of them, and they have a good defense, but I just don't see them compete with Princeton in this one.
This is the most interesting like group. Like, one of these 4 teams in the Final Four is like almost going to end up being a surprise to me. Like, Princeton, Syracuse are obviously the 2 seeded teams up there, but like, if I didn't know what the bracket is, I probably wouldn't have put any of these 4 teams in my Final Four. Again, this is just my opinion, and I'm going off not film or interviews. I'm going off vibes, but I just don't really like the vibes of Princeton as a Final Four team. But who knows? We'll see. So the rematch, Syracuse-Harvard. So we laughed at like the moment we knew Syracuse wasn't back was when Jerry Byrne beat them in the Dome and then went on TV and said they are back after beating them at home. Do you think Syracuse avenges this loss? I mean, this is like, Harvard's got a great offense. Sam King, like they've been frisky. They've been good all year. Are they good enough to beat Syracuse again in the Dome again for a second time the same season?
Man, depends on what Q's team shows up. But I mean, if they haven't learned their lesson on senior night in the Dome, what level they need to play at, what compete level they need to play at. Harvard enjoying their last tournament as a tax-free exempt school, probably.
Harvard's got distractions. They're fighting different battles.
Are the players protesting? I don't know, but I think that Jerry Byrne clip. I think when we were talking about that, and you said that, and he's like, "Yeah, Cuse is definitely back. We just beat the shit out of them, but they're back." Like, I don't know, just some bulletin board material for you maybe. And I think if Cuse would have won that first one, I'd be worried about him. I think Cuse is coming out hot in the Dome for this one. I think Joey Gelato's done. He's done with the talking.
It's legacy time.
He hates hearing it. I think all of them are tired of hearing it. And I just think I don't see this Cuse team losing in the Dome versus Harvard. I just really do not. I don't think it's going to happen.
Hiltz has had a full week to catch his breath after having to run around past double teams for. I want to pick Harvard here, and I actually, and again, like it's Gary Gate, legend, maybe the best player ever to play the game. I think Jerry Byrne's got a leg up. Like, if you're doing who's got the better what, I'd give the coaching edge here to Harvard. Is my perspective of watching these teams. But ultimately, I just think they're, even in that game where Harvard won, like, Cuse had a lot of chances. They had a 2-minute non-releasable at the end of the game, and Hiltz had like a great look, and there were a lot of pipes. And I think that was like the perfect storm for Harvard to beat this team, and just like relying on a perfect storm happening twice. I think ultimately Cuse has more horses, a little bit more on the line. Just from a legacy with some of these guys, the stuff we talked about with Kark, like you've got all the pieces. And then here, X Factor, hot goalie. I mean, he played unbelievable in the ACC tournament. Yeah, McCool. If he's playing like that, again, it really changes the dynamic of that team.
Q's got a little bit of they got some production. They were playing that second line midfield a little bit more, and they were getting some production out of them. So
this is what they do. They draw you in. I've been a victim all year. Like they really can make you think that this team's really about it and is going to win. I have just gone on this roller coaster with them, and right when you think that, UNC just punks them at home on senior night, and it's like, oh wait, never mind. Like, why did I ever think that? So I'm trying not to let myself fall into that trap again. But like, I'll just say it, I got him in the Final Four. Like, out of these 4 teams, Princeton, Towson, Syracuse, Harvard, I'm riding with Syracuse. But I also like wouldn't be surprised at all if Harvard beat them. Yeah. Like that it's just like that's who they are. But they're my favorite of the ACCs in this tournament. They're my favorite.
Yeah.
So
I think are we in agreement? So we're going to say I'm going to say, boy, out of that bracket, the brackets we just talked about making it to the Final Four, I'm going Cuse and Ohio State.
Yeah, so I think Cornell. So of the ones we've gone through so far, well, let's get through the fourth one. We'll pick our Final Fours at the end. So we got two game. Well, the last good game, Duke versus Georgetown. So, just like. I don't know. It's a really pretentious matchup. I just don't care. I don't know. I think Duke is this game is just not interesting to me. I don't know why. The Big East just was not compelling. Like the Denver was down. Villanova is not any good. I just don't know. Georgetown didn't get tested a whole lot in the Big East, and I know they've put it together and they've been playing better. They got a great sophomore goalie, Anderson Moore. I think Duke has the more talented team here. I think Duke has been more tested, playing in that ACC championship game. I like Duke in this matchup. I don't love either team. I don't think either team can beat Maryland, but I think Duke's better team than Georgetown. So I'm going with them in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking Duke as well. I think Georgetown, they played Marquette in that final. That offense was clicking, but again, it was Marquette. But I just don't see the Blue Devils losing at home in Durham. I just Duke's defense and athletes, man, their
defense is good. That was the eye opener for me because I've talked a lot about Duke without watching them. Their defense is good, their goalie's good, and McGuire is really good. Now, you can't ride a D-Mitty to the championship like you can ride Kirst.
No.
They've got horses. And we'll talk about this. So obviously we both like Maryland to beat Robert Morris or Air Force.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
We don't have to talk about that one. We can just move on.
No. So if you go looking at that second round matchup, if Duke gets by, there's part of me that's Maryland doesn't have that great offense either. I actually think they could play them to a similar game that they kind of played Cuse, and you can make it low scoring, but I just believe in Maryland's team offense more than I believe in Duke's team offense right now. And Maryland's got great defense and great goaltending as well. So I think that would be a slugfest, but I just think Maryland is just a little bit more depth on offense to work with, and has just been a little bit more consistent over the season, and then has the X factor in the goaltending and, playoff goaltending.
Do they see number one against Ohio State?
Yeah, well, yeah, he didn't have a great day against Ohio State.
And Jimmy Burrell had a great point. If number one doesn't play well, we don't do well. No shit.
Yeah, it's true. No shit. But it's true with this Maryland
Jimmy.
Team. They're gonna ride. They are gonna ride him though. It's kind of we're laughing because he's saying that, but that is why this kid wears number one. They did get that right. If he is the most important player on Maryland in this tournament,
100%.
And if he's hot, they're really good. But there's been some times this year where they've been leaky, their defense and his goaltending to some extent. Okay, so we got there. We can't talk about the quarterfinal matchups because we don't know what they're going to be. But let's go to the Final Four now. We kind of went through those picks. Who do you like as your Final Four?
Maryland. I'm going to go Maryland. You know what? I'm not going to go Maryland. I'm going Duke, Cornell, and I'm going Cuse. And I'm going Cuse, Ohio State.
Okay. So you put it just to clear up kind of how you said it. That would mean the matchups would be Cornell, Ohio State on one side.
Yep.
And
Duke and
Cuse
on the other end.
On the other side. Okay. Very interesting. I could tell that was well researched. Well, a lot of hours of thinking went into that. Definitely not just shooting from the hip at all.
Yeah, I was actually talking about it with the guy in the sauna this morning before he got on the phone call.
Exactly. He was calling in to just understand the mathematics of the RPI system and why Maryland was number 2. All right. So for me, man, it hurts because I wanted so bad to put Richmond in the Final Four. Like if they were in any other part of this, I would have put them in the Final Four. I'd have had them beaten but I like Cornell team is like the one team. And I actually think it almost hurts Richmond that they played them to a 1-goal game earlier this year because like you're not going to catch them sleeping. They've seen you, so I just have to say it. I want to do it, but I think Cornell from up top is certainly going to make it there. I agree with you. Dude, it wouldn't shock me if Penn State did this a few years ago, right? It was whatever after Ament left, and it was kind of the next version of that team, and they made this run to Final Four, and there was that shitty. They should have been, whatever it was, they made it all the way to the national championship game, or was it they lost to Duke when the crease dive goal when he was in the crease and they didn't call it or whatever? Like, whatever. Bad lacrosse historian here, but Penn State, like Coach Tambroni, they're frisky in tournament scenarios. And when you play conference opponents too, it's like these teams know each other well. And obviously so this one is tougher for me. I'm going to come back to it. So I like Cornell.
It came down to it. You know what came down for me is how well Big Tasty's playing. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's a good point. I like Syracuse to come out of the Syracuse-Princeton grouping. I think it's going to be, I think I mentioned Syracuse-Towson, and I think Syracuse will win that game. And then I like Maryland, to come out. So I got Maryland-Syracuse. Yeah, and then we'll ride the hot hand. We'll go with Ohio State-Cornell. I think Cornell beats Ohio State. See, like this is where it gets interesting. So like, are you just pushing it into like it's going to be Cornell Maryland 1 versus 2? And if not, I'm basically now putting Syracuse in the national championship game after just like saying the whole time that like the ACC can't win. Who's your national championship game out of the Final Four?
Oh man, you don't know how badly I want to have Cornell losing to Ohio State, but I just can't bet against Cornell. I really can't. I think Cornell. Yeah, so who would, looking at this bracket, so Cornell would, if they make it to the Final Four, it's Cornell Maryland or Cornell Ohio State?
No. The one I'm looking at makes it look like it's Cornell Ohio State.
Okay.
Yeah, 1, 4, 2, 3. That's right. Yeah.
Cornell Ohio State, Cuse Duke on my side.
Cuse Duke would be a rematch. That'd be interesting.
God, I don't even want to say it. I'm going to go, man. I'm going Cuse, Cornell.
Yep.
And
let's go.
And I'm going, I hate going against the boys in orange, but man, Cornell national champions this year.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with you. I think it's
in a tight one. I think it's going to be a tight one.
I don't know that Cuse could actually beat Maryland. I actually, fuck that. It's going to be Cornell, Maryland, and Cornell will win. Like I just like my heart. It's interesting because I'm like a Terps fan. My dad went there, right? All this stuff. Like
shout out Matt Rambo. I know you don't have Instagram, but he gave you a shout out on the comments.
Oh, for the be the best hat.
The best hat.
Yeah. It was great too because I beat them in the championship. I can like root for them with just like an open heart. It's like I've got my ring, but I like grew up a Terps fan. Like Frank Urso and stories of my dad's teams in the 70s and like watching the Joe Walters teams and all this stuff. So I do have love for Maryland. I just want this Cuse team to be something they're not. And I've just like been riding it so hard all season that I want to like will it to existence, and like they'll probably lose by 6 goals at home to Harvard. That's just like what they've done. So Maryland's a safer bet. I hate going 1 versus 2. But I think the thing that makes this easy is at the end of the day, like I just don't see any of these teams beating Cornell. And the storyline there is like Connor Busick Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not being on social, but like, I just don't know that he's being talked about enough right now.
He's not.
Like, this guy's.
You wouldn't even know. I think if you asked a lot of people, like, hey, who's the head coach at Cornell? They'd be like, I don't know.
He's on his way to what is going to become a legendary coaching career. Like, it's the sort of thing of like Sean McVay winning a Super. Like, Busick was in his 20s when he was the head coach the first time they went to the national championship game, when they had Adler there on defense and they lost in that game. But like, if he can make a run with this team, like, and win, oh my God, like I don't know, he's younger than me, so he's 30 or 31 years old or something like that. Yeah. And it's not like this. I don't find the right way to say it. Like, obviously you can recruit at Cornell, but it's not Notre Dame it's not like he's just pumping in #1 recruiting classes and like they're just winning on talent. Like, they are disciplined. They're good all over the field. They're fucking organized. They're like, so what he's done there, I just think deserves. I mean, he's somebody that I think we 100% got to get on as soon as we can and talk to, because obviously you were teammates with him. I competed against him. I mentioned he's the kind of guy I felt like I matched up with the most over my kind of 10 years playing pro lacrosse. And he's just he's a fierce competitor, but like a level-headed guy, super easygoing.
He's so passionate about that too, man. Cornell, obviously he went there, but like he's just so passionate about it and lives it.
And it's cool because Cornell hasn't won a championship since 1977, I believe. Yeah. And like there's a lot of mystique with that program, and there's a lot of legends, and so like to have a guy who kind of like bleeds red like that at the helm, like, between him and Curse, like they're hard to root against. And I just, even if they don't go on a run, I just think it should be said, like what he's doing there right now, man, coaching against, you look at the other names coaching in this tournament, and it's Tillman, and it's, it's Tambroni, and it's Gate, and it's guys who have been doing this a long time. And then you've got fucking Connor Busick, and he's the bully on the block in this group. It's pretty fucking cool. And like, shout out to him. Like it's an incredible, run that he's on and program he's put together that now has sustained. Like, this isn't just the Kirst show. He brought a team to the national championship before CJ Kirst was what he is now. Yeah. So like, he's obviously built something that can last there. It's pretty impressive.
And what a story that would be, right? If Cornell Cuse national championship, I mean, cue up the fucking highlights, like of when they were last there and they were clearing the ball, the Cody Jamison thing, Nims, and that would be,
I got chills, man.
That'd be some cool redemption for the Cornell guys. And yeah, man. So
tournament time is awesome. Like, Saturday is just going to be a great, this weekend slate of games is going to be great. It's all going to be great production, great broadcasting. Like, this is what I was saying. Like, this is where it's like they get me back, and then next February I'll be pissed again. But this is the best time of the year in lacrosse. And then obviously for us, like, getting to turn around and going right into PLL on the other side of it. And this is where the stars will be born. Like, we've talked about, like, who are the seniors who are going to fucking show up and do anything? Like, what if Penn State and Trainer makes a run and like he shoots up the board, and all of a sudden you kind of realize like the type of player he is, or like, who is it going to be if McEnany gets hot and leads Maryland to a championship? Like, does he now become the #1 goalie or go up the board? Like, what you do in these 4 weeks
matters.
It's your legacy in college, like, for the most part. So I'm fucking fired up. I can't wait to watch it.
Oh yeah.
Fun to talk about. Hopefully your day is a little better. Stay off the phones in the sauna, people.
Hook 'em.
We'll be back next week. Talk quarterfinals. Hook 'em. Peace.